Nurture the future. When I think of this, the first thing comes to my mind is an ability to see, an ability to be unconventional, and the ability to have empathy. Hi, my name is Indraneel Shelar. I'm a documentary photographer, visual storyteller, and educator in design and digital media. Being a photographer, my practice of seeing, my practice of observation has been my essential role to produce visual stories. And hence I would like to address my speech using my art style, showcasing some of the photographs I've taken in my career, showcasing some of my students' work that has nurtured me as an artist, as an educator, and as an individual too. And to begin with, let me show you one of my students' work. If you take a closer look at this image, you will see some sort of shapes and patterns. But if you take a closer look at it, these are not just the shapes and patterns, they're actually forming some characters, alphabets. This student has managed to combine typography and photography together to communicate his idea. And later he managed to stitch all those letters together to form the word that depicts the place where he actually shot this project. That's lower Parel for you. This is an excellent example of how your perspective, your point of view, the way you look at things around you matter a lot to nurture the art of seeing. Now I'm pretty sure the moment you look at this image, this is one of my photographs, took for a project for landscape and nature in an abstract manner. When you look at this image, I'm pretty sure most of you won't really get an understanding of what this image is about, what is the purpose behind it. But let me make your life easier. Now this is a vector form of the previous image where I've eliminated few things from the image. Now you're left with combination of colors and some textures. Now I've eliminated the details as well. Now I'm assuming you are noticing a fish figure. This is exactly how my mindset works. And now probably you get a better understanding of what this image is about. Now this was about an aqua language where I'm trying to communicate about nature and the destructions and how drought situation we might face in future, right? And in this image, if you see, did showcase what am I communicating through this image is about, it is important to simplify your learning. When you simplify your art, when you simplify your learning, it becomes easy for the learner to understand the process behind it. And I strongly believe the process is important than the final outcome. Now, as an artist, as a photographer, empathy played a very important role in my life. To understand my subject, to understand my participants, to understand the emotions behind the photograph I take. And let me share a few stories with you. I took this portrait shot in Jaisalmer, one remote village of Rajasthan, when I was doing a documentary project on people of Rajasthan. I met this woman. She was standing at a main door and covering her face. There was a green door in the background and she was surrounded by mud house. It was a fantastic moment for me because as a photographer, I couldn't stop myself. I went closer to take the photograph, and before I brought my camera up, I took her consent. Though there was a language barrier, we couldn't speak the local language, but through her body language, she was quite positive about it. And I took that opportunity. I brought my camera up, and when I was about to release my shutter, someone pulled her inside and banged the door on my face. It took me a minute to understand what just happened. And I could see everything through my viewfinder. And I pulled my camera down and I noticed a man furiously looking at me with a big mustache, Clearly shows that he didn't really like that. And I'm guessing that was her husband. And he requested me to take a step away. I took my steps away. I went out of that space and he went elsewhere. While I was taking steps, I could hear a whispering sound from my back. And I looked back and that was her again, asking me to come to her backyard. Now, immediately the first person came to my mind was the same guy who's already given me a warm welcome. And I realized that shall I go for it? Because the visitor in me was hesitant, but the photographer in me was constantly asking, go, take this image, this is meant for you. And that's how I actually got into her backyard. I looked at her, she was stepping towards me, putting her up earrings, setting up herself as if she's getting ready for the shot, and she removed her gungat for the first time, and I looked at her, she smiled at me. And that was a moment for me. And as a photographer, I somewhere knew, Indraneel, you've got only a few seconds in your hand to take this image. I can't demand much with her. And I took that image, and I stepped out of her backyard. This particular incident, my lessons may not be extremely inspirational though, but these little things matter to me in my life and how it reached to me. I realized how your strong aspirations can really take you ahead. People like us, we have a choice to be bold. We have a choice to take bold decisions in our life. Whereas people like her, they still aspire to be bold. They still aspire to live their life with the bold decisions they make, And that's where I felt that, there was a beauty in the few seconds which I encountered with her. There's another story. I was heading back home in an AC Mumbai local, and this little girl got into the train at one station, and she was alone, and she was amazed to see. I was assuming that it was for the first time she was in the AC train, and she was amazed to see in this atmosphere. She could see this big window view, and as you can see her body language, there's a silhouette shot though, but you can see her body language. She was joyful. She was in the moment. She was having her fun time, and looking at her, I felt she was impoverished. Probably she barely has any position in her life, but in that moment she was the queen of that moment. I kept noticing her, and I took that opportunity. I took that photograph without making her disturbing her. And in a few minutes, the TC came and asked her to get out of this train in the next station, and she did that. And I kept looking at my picture, and I realized this girl somewhere knew that she's got only a few minutes in her hand, right from the first station to the next station, to enjoy this moment. And I related this to my opportunities, how opportunities come in our life. They don't really wait for you for a very long time. And that's how I relate this image. I address this image as unseen ticket of happiness. Now I need my audience vote over here. How many of you feel you're going ascending in this image? Please raise your hands. How many of you feel you're going descending in this image? Please raise your hands. All right. Now I leave this interpretation on you. I'm not going to say what is right and what is left. This is one of the photographs taken by my student who was suffering from a bipolar disorder and a severe clinical depression. One day, he was doing a specialization course with me, and one day he reached to me with this question: how can I overcome myself, my issues in my life, my problems, using photography? And because that's the only thing which is left in him, and he was passionate about, and that's turned me. And I asked him to elaborate his life. He has a horrifying backstory. He was going through a lot of depression, his family issues, and a severe patient of depression. And I heard his story, and I could see the pain in his words. And we discussed, like, what do we do? And I asked him to do an assignment for next 2 months where he will depict his emotions through a photograph and write about it. Because the patient who really is in such kind of depression, they tend to trigger their emotions, and they do the extreme which you can't really think of. And I asked him, do not control your emotions and just take the photograph that depicts that existing emotion. He did that for the next 2 months. And when we sat together after 2 months, I could see more than 500 shots, 500 emotions, and those were quite powerful. I could see some insane pain in the images which I saw. From 500 shot, we made it to 100, we shortlisted to 50, and then we made a first series of his, which is 10 image series, which says valleys and rooftops. This is exactly what he used to feel, valleys and rooftops, right? And the reason why I asked you what do you think about this image is, I believe that it's your mindset right now sitting on this chair. You feel this is ascending because you are probably in a very positive note. The moment you feel down or probably in a very negative note, you might feel that you're going descending in this image. That's how visual interpretations and visual storytelling is about. It's been 6 years now. We are still in touch, and he is living a better life. He has overcome his depression through this assignment, and he is a poet today. He is now doing photography as well as he expresses emotions through words now and living a better life now. I strongly believe the responsibility of nurturing the future completely depends on how you nurture your start. Thank you so much.